Okay, so this is kind of a difficult talk to give in 6 minutes, but I'll try to run it through quickly. I am a consultant with Alcon. I use the WaveLight suite. I also use the Zeiss VisuMax for performing SMILE, and I'm also a consultant with J&J. Basically, laser tissue interaction in the cornea is really highly dependent on pulse width, wavelength, and intensity. And the ones that are most relevant, at least for clinical use, is that of photoablation and photodisruption. You can see the peak powers are increasing with photodisruption as well as the shorter pulse width. Back in 1983, Steve Trokel really brought this whole field to bear with the introduction of excimer laser photoablation here, carving small etchings in a human hair, and it was that whole bond-breaking principle without thermal energy that really set things off. That really brought us to PRK and LASIK as main procedures for refractive correction, and LASIK is the largest, most frequently performed elective procedure in all of medicine. We can see this nice evolution over the course of 1990 when the first LASIK procedure was done, all the way to SMILE in 2017 getting FDA approved. And it's quite a menu. And basically, some of the highlights is that Wavefront Guided was introduced because of scanning, tracking, and registration. It would allow us to have increased customization. That eventually led to Topography Guided, where there was higher resolution with more data points, giving us more resolution in what we're trying to customize. And ultimately, despite these things, Wavefront Optimized is still the market leader, being more than half of all procedures being done with a single platform with a Wavefront Optimized profile. But there's changes that way. There's more customization coming. Also, Femto-Lasers were introduced to make flaps better, and that really had a new ablation mechanism. It was an ablation from the small pulses, but also cleavage by the gas bubble that helped to separate the tissue that was otherwise attached. That really brought us to SMILE as a procedure where we could create 2 layers very nicely, remove that, and compared to LASIK, it would be a small incision, less cutting of nerves, less issues with flap. It's more like a laparoscopic LASIK. So there are reasons why SMILE might be better than LASIK, a number of things related to flaps, biomechanics, dry eyes, environmental variables, and global perception. But really, where are we going to go in the future? It's really going to come down to increasing customization or making less and less invasiveness in the types of procedures we perform. So SMILE will grow in popularity. We'll have greater customizations which refine LASIK, and we'll see new laser techniques and mechanisms hit the scene. We can see that already where one of the platforms, Johnson & Johnson, is getting a higher resolution wavefront sensor. They're linking some topography with spot topography in order to get greater precision in their treatments. And there is some investigation going into ray tracing with Alcon, and you can see this was actually some publications done about 7 years ago where we can actually link an apex setter tomography with either pentagram or SD-OCT together with a time domain OCT for biometry and a Hartmann-Shack aberrometer all in one unit in order to give a kind of more global ray tracing type form of customization to increase precision. And it iterates the data as the rays come back out to not allow internal things to cause inaccurate corrections. What about SMILE? How are we going to move? Well, FDA did approve myopic astigmatism this year. Refractive lenticular implantation is just going to start being introduced and may introduce the whole idea of refractive eye banking and transplantation. We'll see new laser platforms that get FDA approved coming along. Maybe ultraviolet will be another method, and we'll see even maybe customized SMILE in the future. This is a nice slide from Osama Ibrahim showing an aphakic person who received a lenticule, so not just treating hyperopia, but even aphakia with here 15 diopters of steepening, but a very more uniform pattern, which is much better than trying to remove tissue in a hyperopic LASIK by actually putting something that's going to have better asphericities. Here you can see the idea of doing presbyopia corrections with small lenticle implants. Again, this is all being introduced because SMILE is taking things out, we can put tissue back in. And even keratoconus, putting lenticules in pockets may allow us to control the irregular shape better as a refractive correction for keratoconus. This whole thing of lenticular implantation keratoplasty actually is in the United States already. The first procedures were done in Utah and Indiana under a flap, and it can be later lifted the flap to customize the treatment to get even better outcomes. And again, this whole idea of refractive eye banking with SMILE lenticules, doing these various procedures, or eye banks providing tissue that after the posterior is taken away, you can do these like procedures, or even with other eye banks coming up with a commercial outlay for different solutions. So I think we'll see this somewhere down the future. Also, new femtosecond lasers are going to hit the scene for SMILE. Schwind is outside the US with it. Zimmer's working on it. Caranova, which does femtocataract, has this whole way of doing a matrix scanning, which is a new delivery method. Maybe that will move to a SMILE. Maybe Alcon, maybe J&J are going to get involved with SMILE in the future as well. UV wavelengths can be even more precise with the focusing, and these were two publications here in 13 and 15 on UV wavelengths. And just for a comparison, our typical higher energy femtosecond laser trying to do a SMILE, there's a lot of gas bubbles. VisioMax much better. UV even more refined in terms of the kind of separation and detail. New laser techniques, we're going to see laser-induced refractive index change, which we've heard about with the lyric procedure, the idea of changing refractive index instead of curvature. And here you can just see this is your typical femtosecond laser. Here's more the VisioMax type, with lower energies. Lyric is much more on a lower scale. It's below the photodisruption threshold, so it's doing a whole new mechanism by using lower energy femtosecond lasers. Here you can see the very first in-human patient that was treated with more of a Fresnel pattern of diffraction for a presbyopia. And again, less fear of surgery, less dry eye issues, less risk of ectasia, really good quality. It's certainly an area of the future. So in conclusion, increasing customization will keep LASIK strong in the future, because that's one of the ways in which we can provide that customization with LASIK. SMILE has the potential to strongly coexist with LASIK, maybe even replace it in certain markets. We're seeing that in China, where it's growing very rapidly. And new lasers will both customize refinements and minimize invasiveness to laser vision correction. So thank you for your attention.